So apparently being a parent is stressful. So this past August, the U.S. Surgeon General released an advisory about the mental health and well-being of parents here in the States. And apparently we're stressed out. Shocker. Today on the show, we have Melissa Creighton from the Mobile County Health Department to talk about these stress factors that we as parents are all feeling. And finally, we're going to talk about how to manage this stress so that we can be better as parents. And not only for ourselves, but for our kids. Stick around. Today's Unrattled is going to be awesome. Hey everyone, welcome to Unrattled, where we learn to shake off our past parenting mistakes so that we can stay engaged with our kids. I'm Austin Lee. I'm your host on this journey of becoming better parents together. Today, we're going to be examining what the U.S. Surgeon General has talked about in his latest advisory about the mental health and well-being of parents. And finally, we're going to wrap up the show by talking about some ideas and ways that you can manage this stress. I'll be joined today in the studio by my co-host, Jessica Stinson, as well as my good friend, Melissa Creighton from the Mobile County Health Department. Let's jump in. Hey, Melissa, how are you doing today?
I'm good.
So glad to have you here.
So happy to be back.
Great. So we're talking about stress. We're talking about the Surgeon General warning with parental stress.
Yes.
And the first thing that literally comes to my mind is, you're telling me that parenting is stressful?
What?
Who would have thought? We were on our Facebook page earlier, and I'm like, hey, as a parent, like, what stresses you out? And everybody's like, kids, just kids. And I'm like, yes, but there's so much more to it. And so we want to talk about that today. We're also joined in the studio with our co-host, Jessica Stinson.
Hello.
I just didn't want to keep blowing by the fact that you were here.
I'm okay. It's totally fine.
Stop.
I'm good.
She's keeping me company down here at the
Yes.
end of the
That
table.
felt kind of
We're
passive
just
aggressive.
down here having fun.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So listen, let's jump straight into this. So parenting is stressful, but here's the question. What are some of the common stressors? Like, what are the things that have changed over the last, how has stress with parents evolved over the last years?
So for me, social media sticks out a lot.
So much.
And if you just turn on a television, we can all see how some of the devastating effects of how technology is being just used as a vehicle to bully. And I really feel like that, that could be a show in and of itself.
Right.
Not to mention the just stress as a parent of how you can fix that. And I think, we were talking offline about how there's no safe space anymore. Your home used to be your, fortress of solitude. And
right. Nobody could reach you there.
Exactly. And now there's no safe space for these kids. And so the parents are also feeling trapped. And there's no rule book for this. We can't keep up. And
right.
I think another thing Dr. Murphy said, too, about social media is the comparison monster. As adults, we see, all of our families and, families that we go to church with or that we may see, at the neighborhood picnic, and they're always taking the beautiful pictures and they have the life. And so if you don't have that, or your kids didn't make the honor roll every quarter or whatever it is, you're constantly comparing yourself and how you parent and what's going on in your family with what you see online. So there's always been keeping up with the Joneses. It's a saying for a reason, but it's
true
in
story.
your face.
I sometimes will see those people on social media and I'm like, I still want to follow them because I know them, but it seems like they have so much together. I'm like, I can't look at you. So I put them on quiet for 60 days or something like that.
Yeah, I do that too.
And that's just, I'm like, this is for my own mental health. It's like, I'm so glad you have everything together. However, I do not. And I don't want to unfollow them because I feel like that's mean, but I'm like, yeah, I'm going to put you on quiet. I'm not going to see your feed for a couple weeks.
But it does put it right in your face. You compare yourself.
100%. And I'd hate that about myself, but I definitely am that way.
That's human nature.
Yeah, I think it is. So we're talking about social media. We're talking about the pace that we're going. We're probably talking about playing comparison.
And it doesn't even have to be keeping up with the Joneses. For goodness sakes, we've got Taylor Swift that's just in your face all the time, and she's great. But, these young girls, how are the body image? How can I keep up? How can I, as a parent, look at my daughter who,
And it's always been a thing. I remember growing up back before when they were still sending you AOL CDs. So it's not like it's just the internet. But I can remember magazines and TV commercials, and that's always been a thing. I just think it's amplified so much more.
Yeah, and it's like, how do you navigate waters you've never been in?
Right.
And I just thank God, that we didn't have those same issues or same things, because there's no telling. It's terrifying.
You don't want to be caught on camera. So you're saying thank you for that.
And some of those,
me too.
100%.
some of those childhood traumas, like, I mean, I could just throw up a bunch of like trauma filing cabinet in my head right now and think, thank God somebody didn't catch that on camera. But now the struggle is real, because these kids never know who's got the camera pointed at me, who's got their cell phone out, who's recording me saying
And you're supposed
something.
to be giving them advice, and it's like, I've never been in the situation where I have to deal with this. And then even talking about that, I had another person on, a friend of mine, Jordan, on social media, was talking about keeping up in school, keeping up with grades. And because kids are now compared at like a national level and where they're falling, and it gives all this data. And if you're in a good place, it makes you feel amazing. But then I think, what if it's a parent that gets the reading score back and they're way below national average, and there's somebody who's putting in the work, there's somebody who's working super hard, and yet they're not seeing the results. And it's just, this is where their kid's at. But yet again, because of how we're developing school and everything, and I'm not saying it's wrong or right, it's just something that we have to manage.
It's just an added stressor, and life is full of stressors. It's just, I think that I'm glad that we're finally putting some recognition on parental stress.
Right.
And because I can tell you, my first kid was completely different than my teenager. He was low key, easygoing. I didn't realize until he was an adult that he struggled as much as he did. Now my teenager, she has several mental health diagnoses, and it's difficult. And so as a parent, it's hard to watch that, and know how to navigate those waters. It's hard. And it's certainly affected me, my blood pressure, my physical health, my ability to manage and regulate myself. I mean, I've had to do you got to do a lot of work.
Yeah. You can totally pump up the volume by adding like layers of, I have a child with disabilities. I have a child that has, a bully. I have a child. I mean, you could just stack, and that deck just gets really thick very fast, and it becomes overwhelming.
And I think it's a good thing that we've put some spotlight on parents and how are we managing ourselves so that we can be better to help our children.
Right.
I think that's huge.
It's a conversation we need to happen.
Thank you, Dr. Murphy.
Seriously, because, we had said earlier, we were just talking about this. It's, parenting is stressful. Deal with it. Because I definitely grew up in the age where it's, hey, you just pull yourself up by your bootstraps, you grit your teeth, and you get through it. And it's like, it doesn't have to be the way it is. It can, you're still going to have challenges. You still have to grit through moments, but it doesn't have to be the way it is. So I'm glad we're talking about this, Jess.
Absolutely.
I completely agree. So prolonged, Dr. Murphy talked about the prolonged stress and how that affects parents. From your perspective, what are the things that parents can see, like stress is starting to affect them? And it's because that stress is evident, eventually going to get on, is going to, reach their kids, and they're going to feel it, and it's going to have effects on them. But when what starts happening to parents when they start getting stressed out?
So from my personal experience, and this is really weird that I got this phone call. I felt like my doctor had like an email to you as soon as because I just recently had a blood draw. My cortisol level, which is like your stress hormone, 10 points out of range,
I'm like, down? 10 points down?
Oh, no.
Yeah.
I wish.
I'm like, what are you doing?
Yeah,
Right?
No, the other direction. No, well, I wanted the high score. I'm always about like
winning.
She's an overachiever.
Yeah, overachiever. But personally, I can tell that, your sleep starts to get affected. Yeah. You can massive weight gain or loss, either direction. You can get like this brain fog. It can affect, all kind of hypertension, blood pressure through the roof. Mm-hmm. Full disclosure, like you can just fall apart. You're literally falling apart, and you're no good to anyone, especially your child, if you're not together. Your mental health, your physical health, every piece of you needs to be top-notch, top-performing. Souped-up car. You need to be a super race car to help your kid, because that your perfect self, and you're going to reflect that for your child. Like, they're going to look at you. You are their model. Like, you are their first playmate. You are their super parent.
Right.
So they're looking to you to emulate. And that environment, I mean, we always have this discussion about nature, nurture, right?
Right.
But that environment is key. So
Is
if
a
you're
huge,
huge
huge
if your
impact.
environment's like super strung out, high anxiety, I mean, my child is already coming to me and saying, Mama, calm down. And I'm over like, I am calm.
I love that. Can I ask you a question? Is it, during COVID, we heard that one of the issues with the effect that COVID was having on people's mental health was that they were in a prolonged state of fight or flight.
Yes.
In that survival mode that was being stretched out. Are parents experiencing the same thing? Is it similar in that regard?
Yeah, I would totally say so. I mean, it's the fight or flight and not being able to remove yourself from that trauma and that prolonged, like, coming out of that and still being in that traumatic mode can definitely just make bad go to worst. Like, it's not conducive for a healthy environment, for sure. And I don't know, I just don't think that parents think that making themselves the best self is going to help their child, when in fact that is where you start. You don't start with your kid, you start with yourself.
Because it feels a little selfish.
It does.
Yeah.
I
Totally.
mean, honestly.
It feels selfish, but at the same time, how can somebody unhealthy, like, if you're mentally unhealthy, how can you help somebody healthy?
Right.
And what was funny is I went through a lot of counseling, in my previous marriage. And while I was going through that counseling, one of the things the doctor said that I will never forget is mentally, you can't be with somebody who is lower on the mental or higher on the mentally healthy than you. He said, hypothetically, if you could rate mental health from 0 to 10, if you're at a 5, somebody who is a 7 won't date you, won't be with you because they see all the red flags. And it's like, how do you help navigate somebody when you're not in a healthy space?
Right.
And so I think that comes back to
I get that.
what you're saying is, like, you can't, like, you've got to, the parents have to focus on their mental health.
Yes.
That's the only way to really, you might have some temporary relief, but it doesn't seem like it's not like, what's the word I'm looking for? Sustainable for a long term.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
If
you're
that
right.
makes sense. So, Melissa, even looking at the report, it even talks about people, like parents that are facing violence, poverty, discrimination, like, have a disproportionate effect on them with stress in their life. Like, can you talk about that a little bit?
Definitely. For parents that, I mean, we all want the best for our kids, right?
Right.
Anything and everything we can afford to give them.
Doesn't matter how much money we make.
Yeah, resources. I mean, just because that's our happiness, right? If
Right.
you're not happy, I'm not happy. So if you are disadvantaged and you are struggling just to provide basic necessities,
Right.
you're already dealing with that self-doubt of, I'm not doing enough.
Right.
I need to do
I'm not
more.
enough.
I'm not enough.
Right.
And I think that mantra in your head has got to be the biggest monster on your back.
Yeah.
When you're already, looking at that child and you're just in a struggle just every day just to provide and make ends meet. And that's a real thing right now. I mean, look
People
at
struggling.
inflation. It's
Can we
unreal.
talk about inflation for a second? Because groceries are so expensive.
Yes.
We can't go out we didn't go out to eat a ton, but now it's like anytime we go to eat, it's half my paycheck. It feels like.
Yeah,
it's
it's
just
a lot.
it's so much. So,
Yep.
but yeah, I didn't mean to take you off track, but
No,
yes.
I mean it makes sense, and it's not about just the basic necessities. Then you have, kids are always gonna, Jane's got these new pair of shoes, John's got this new cool jacket, like all the things
keeping up.
just build up, and you want to have this validation as a parent of, look what I'm doing, but you're struggling because, I mean,
Yeah. So not only do you have to keep up yourself, like you have to keep up appearances. Now you're responsible for somebody else
yes,
keeping up appearances,
yes,
which just increases the stress. And then on top of it, when you start talking about like even discrimination, that's something else. Like it's a whole nother factor that parents are having to consider, especially when they're sending their kids out of the house.
Yes.
That, maybe that we don't have to think about quite as much.
Yeah.
And so that's another stress being added on. But then But just to go back to this, when you talked about like that mantra, that idea that I am not enough, because I've had those seasons, and motivating yourself to do something is hard sometimes, but having that thought that I'm not enough versus like is crippling. And so it's definitely not something to take lightly.
And there are a lot of families that have the reality of, and I have been there. I, have worked hard for a long time and get my paycheck and it's gone, and I have to make a decision. Am I going to buy food, or am I going to put gas in my car?
Yep.
Like, those are the realities a lot of people face. And that is a level of stress that I think too much of us take for granted that we don't have, but it is out there, and like it really does affect how adults are able to be present for their kids.
Yeah.
Yes.
And with the state of everything right now, it's just increasing. And I think the report actually said from the Surgeon General, 1 out of every 4 families over the last year has been in a place where they couldn't afford just the basic necessities for their kids, which is roughly 18 million people.
And when you look at the
That's
state of
so
Alabama
many.
and the pockets of rural areas, I mean, the lack of access to health care, to food,
Right.
Transportation.
yes, it's astounding.
And all of that is just compounding.
Yes.
And then also having this constant voice or this constant reminder that there are people out there that are so much better, or you think are doing so much better.
Yes.
We all know that highlight reel for social
Right.
media. It's me and Vinay, our other coworker who's not on with us today, we were having this conversation, was like, oh, they look really happy. Something's up.
Fake news.
There's too many happy pictures, if
This
you
is
know what
AI.
I'm
It's
saying.
not real.
Just saying.
Not real.
All right, so listen. Hopefully, we hadn't scared everybody. We haven't terrified. If you don't have kids, you're like, yeah, I'm definitely not doing that anymore.
Be prepared.
Yeah. It's tough. Being parents hard, but that's why we have to stick together. That's why we have to stick
Absolutely.
together. So, Melissa, give us some actionable steps. What are some things if parents are struggling with stress? What are some things they can do to like start backtracking on that a little bit? Start
Yeah.
getting control.
I think it depends. So, like, you've got your introverts, hey-o, and you got your extroverts
Hi-oh.
Some of us are in the middle.
in the middle. So it just depends. I would say, there's lots of different resources out there. I know for me personally, I do a lot of free because, struggle is real. On Facebook, they
Yeah.
have a lot of like guided meditation. And I know for some people that's like a big no-no. They're like, oh,
Well,
that's
I think people
weird.
call it different things. I see some people call it meditation, and some people will say, I know in the Christian world, they call it a quiet time or a prayer, like their prayer time. And so I think it's kind of the same thing. It's taking a second to self-reflect and to think internally and focus on something that, that enlightens you. And so I think it's more common and more practice than, and
Yes.
they just call it something else.
Yes, it doesn't all have to be wrapped up in this Middle Eastern mysticism.
Well,
stuff.
when you say meditation, it kind of does, but at the same time, it's like there's just another term for it.
Well, and there's so many people that I think stray away from it. And then whenever I started watching some of these and just kind of like quickly scrolling and like, wait a minute, I like this person who's just sitting there and humming, and it's just droning me into like sleep.
Yeah.
So there's not like this intent of like I'm having to think. It's like this just mind-numbing sounds or white noise or blue noise. Like I had no idea there were different frequencies of noises, and you can just sit there
Yeah.
and listen to all of them, and then like next thing you know, I'm like,
So relaxing, right?
so
Pass out.
yeah. I mean, it's just to each his own, but
Right.
you have to find the outlet that is best for you, because if you don't tackle the stress anxiety monster, it is going to eat you alive.
Yeah.
And I also find that every day whenever I'm in the bathroom just brushing my teeth, I look in the mirror and I say, I'm enough. Like, I don't have to do this.
Yeah.
I get to do this. I get to be that little boy's mom
Right.
today. Like,
Yeah.
that is my job. And that just fills me up.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, he's mine. Like, this divine power picked me to be
Right.
his mom.
Yeah.
And that lights up my world. And that sparks that battery. And you have to sit down and find what sparks your battery today.
Yeah.
Just like rev that engine up, figure out, is it, treating yourself to spa day? Is it reading a book? Is it finding time to like go sit in a quiet room somewhere? Is it, prayer, meditation? Like, to each his own. Find it, hold it, embrace it, and make time for yourself.
Yeah, make time.
Do it.
Another thing I think is helpful is if you are drawn to social media, if you have that proclivity to always find yourself on social media,
Dopamine.
do yourself the favor and like join a group, join a mom's group, join a parenting group.
Like UNrattled, a podcast for parents?
Like
Yes.
UNrattled, a podcast for parents.
That would be a great group to join.
Find a community, because there is a little bit, there's some safety in the autonomy of it, because in most of the groups, you can be anonymous, but also to see parents conversing with each other and
Sharing.
and being vulnerable and finding out that this happens to you as well. This is how you handled it and it worked. It allows you a space without judgment. Kind of a lot of like what we do here.
Yeah.
And, find a community. Community is huge.
Yeah. We recently asked a question like what stresses parents out, and one of the people responded talking about grades, and then there was another mom that jumped on and was like, "Oh, reading and math," and she's like, "Yes," and it was like mom hugs, and it made me so happy that because we're still at the beginning of this and we're still building a community, but just seeing people encourage each other. Like, I was like, that's what this is about, because we don't know what everybody's going through.
Yeah.
So finding a group of people that, can support you and just like encourage you is so important.
And you're always going to find like my experience in the group. One that I have found very helpful is my child was in public school and we were navigating the IEP process, and that's frustrating, and it can feel very helpless,
Scary.
and there's so many ins and outs and processes and all the things I didn't know, and I feel like I have resources and friends, so I can imagine how other parents feel. But I'm in the public school system's parents page.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, there's a lot of complaining about the cell phone policy. Whatever, you get through all that stuff, but there's some really good when parents are sharing their resources and sharing their experiences. That was what it was for me. It was a keep going.
Me
You're
too
in the right
type of a
direction.
situation.
Yeah, and I think that there's that helps a lot with the stress level,
Right.
because there's some validation when you're heading down the right road, and there's some direction for pivoting and other options that people share with you.
Yeah,
So,
that's really good. I think one that I have to throw out is, which I don't mind sharing this. I just recently started going back to therapy.
love therapy.
And it is, if you've never been, it is so helpful. It's hard. I mean, you're going to have conversations you don't want to have, but the fruit that you see it and the reward of getting through things you didn't even know you were struggling with, or things that were kind of holding you up, or resentment, or like you were talking about, like your self-worth.
Yep.
It makes you so much of a better parent, because you can shed all that stuff. You're not asking those questions. Because I can tell you, like, my kids would say stuff. And I read a book a long time ago, and I felt like it really spoke to me. It's like Love and Respect. Women really love, they really need, like, this being loved by their spouse, by their kids. Like, that will hurt them if they feel unloved. With men, it's respect. And I instantly, after I started going to therapy, I started realizing my kids would say stuff and it would affect me. And I realized I don't feel like they respect me. And so that meant something to me. That might not resonate with anybody else. I think I just said resume instead of resonate. So I just want to clarify. I said resonate. But that resonated with me. And so as I started doing therapy, I started realizing like all these different blocking, like just these head things I had going on were kind of slowly getting away. And I was able to focus like on my kid. And it's like, oh, they're not coming at me. They're not saying this because they knew in middle school that this happened to me and they're making fun of me about it. Because that's how insane I am. But no, it helps you just slow down and be there for them and just be a better parent. So I'm going to have to say, like, if you're not in therapy or counseling, like, go. It is, when you find a good counselor, you connect, and they're not judging. They just are there to care for you and help you walk through some of the tough parts of your life and help you understand it. And, I was talking to somebody and they're like, what is therapy? And I'm like, it helps you better understand yourself and why you act the way you act and help you get past that, period, and helps you be a better person. Yeah. So if you're not in therapy, go to counseling.
I have a question along those lines, Melissa. Yeah. because there are a lot of people, a lot of our listeners could be uninsured. Health insurance is not
Great
cheap.
question. Great question.
Are there mental health resources? Does the county health department provide like mental health resources?
Yes, there are behavioral health resources at the health department as well as case management. And then also we have certified application counselors that are able to help you get insurance through Marketplace and also look for enrollment periods that could be open. You know, if something happens like a life event, you may not even know that there's, discounts available. So we have specific people that are certified application counselors. They go through training and they're able to do Medicaid, Medicare, all that stuff, as well as Marketplace.
I just think
look
there's
for
such a
discounts.
misconception about what's out there. And
Right.
there's just a lack of awareness as to the resources that are out there for people. And it's not just a certain demographic of people. It isn't a certain people that make under a certain amount. Like, there's things out there.
Well, and we're in a provider shortage area. I mean, we're in a designated provider shortage area for mental health.
I feel that.
Yeah.
I mean, I found a good
truly.
group because when I moved down from Birmingham, I'm like, not that there's not good people here, but they're booked.
Yes.
And there's just not enough therapists. But I mean, I found a good guy and we're on a good pace now. But no, I fully see
Yeah, I
that.
feel that.
I felt that.
Yes. And it's like you've mentioned on a couple of times, those of us in rural areas, it's harder, transportation and then finding those providers, it's even harder. So, you really need to expand your tribe.
In the link below, we're going to have some links for different areas that you might be stressing out.
Awesome.
Like mental health, if you're looking for somewhere to sign up, or if you're looking for healthcare because that stress, you don't know how to navigate that.
Right.
Like as a parent, like here's some links below, you can reach out and they can help you out.
Bingo.
So this wouldn't be Unrattled if we didn't talk about this for 1 second, but at the end of the show, we always like to talk about something we're going to put in timeout. So as a parent, what do you want to put in timeout this week?
Oh, my incessant desire to try and be perfect all the time.
She has such a good answer.
School's hitting up. So your desire to be perfect, you're putting that in timeout.
Yes.
Your OCD,
Yes.
your obsessive compulsive disorder to be first at everything,
Yes.
including stress, your cortisol levels.
I feel personally attacked.
I'm just
Sane.
You told me these things. I'm just recalling
I'm
it.
kidding.
No. All right.
Embrace.
That's a really good answer.
Yeah. Jess, what about you? What do you want to put in parenting timeout this week?
Jersey Shore.
What? How does that result? How does that even in the realm of
Let me explain
parenting?
to you, because my teenager has discovered Jersey Shore from way back when.
Oh, it's a train wreck.
And I have so many questions I have to answer. And I'm like, no. And like now, the Jersey Shore, these people are grown up and they live like healthy, productive, quasi-healthy.
Well, I was about to say
But like some of them have
relevant.
like really like gotten sober and have businesses and they're all these things. And, I'm like, but it's just a lot of explanations I didn't need to add to the mix. So
Jersey Shore.
Jersey
really
Shore is what I would like to
dated
put in
now.
timeout right
Yeah,
now.
you put it in timeout. A TV show.
I think that's fair.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
Love
I mean,
you, Snooki. But
do you though?
I do. I think she's adorable.
Okay.
She's so cute.
She's I
know.
I can't vibe with that. I'm gonna put my kids' room in timeout because I am over trying to stay on top of them to keep it clean.
Oh, can I give you some 411 on that? There's
Burn it.
actually
Burn them.
studies on children that have messy rooms that say they have a higher intellect and that they are going to be more productive as adults because their room is messy. So, sorry.
She works for the health department.
I'm gonna need you to send me that study.
In writing, got it.
Yeah, because my kids are gonna be Einstein,
Don't
basically.
challenge her.
Huh?
Don't challenge her to
Don't-
a good
Done.
time.
Yeah.
Consider it done.
Research, data, I'm on it.
Research data. I'll send it to you tomorrow. And then the last thing, what are you doing to take care of yourself this week?
More, I don't know, I guess more focused time with my family and being present
Yeah,
with
that's
my
good.
family instead of sitting at the dinner table, saying our blessing, and then immediately my mind goes to, we've got fall festival next week, and then he's got to wear a special shirt, and then I got to put $2 in his book bag because he's got to have ice cream on this day, and then I need to stop
Mm-hmm.
and just be present in the moment
That's a
at
good
dinner
one.
time and just enjoy being with my family. And
Yep.
instead of running that race in my mind, because I'm doing myself a disservice. I know I am.
Yeah.
And there's going to be time, later to do these things and to make these plans and to, write it on the calendar so I can just be done with it and
Right.
quit, like hyper focusing on it.
Yeah.
But I feel like we should all just be more present
Yep.
in moments.
When they're there.
Yeah.
It's very, very, very good. Jess?
I think for me, it's letting go of expectations. We just came back from a family vacation, and I'm a planner. Plan where we're going. This is what it's going to be like. It was nothing what I thought it was going to be like.
Forced family fun.
It was raining the whole time. And I just was I woke up one day and I was in such a bad mood because this is not what I planned. This is not what I expected. But yet it turned out beautifully and it was wonderful. And we had time spent together that otherwise we wouldn't have had.
Right.
But for me, a lot of times it's the expectation.
Yeah.
How people will respond to certain things, how things are going to go, even stuff that's crazy out of my control, like the weather. Like, why would I even think that I could control it? That's just asinine. But I did,
Captain Planet over there?
I find myself doing that, having an expectation and really feeling inadequate when those aren't met. I feel like I've done something wrong or haven't done enough. Or
Right.
So I got to let that go.
Being flexible with that. Yeah, I
Gotta
get
let
that.
go.
I'm glad both of y'all's were deep because mine is not. It's college football season. So college football all the time, smoking food, grilling, watching all the football games, which, fun fact about my family, my wife is more into college football and football in general than I am.
She's amazing.
I'm into the food.
Yeah.
Yes. What are we tailgate? Like,
Yes.
what kind of party foods are we
ma'am.
having?
Yes.
Yeah. Some of my friends brought over some smoked cheese dip.
Love language.
Yeah, seriously.
Cheese dip.
All those
Cheese.
things, man. I'm telling you, football season's just...
It is amazing.
Yeah, and then,
Even when it's raining.
this will most likely get cut out, but the friggin' SEC has gotten wild this year
Yeah.
with Texas, Oklahoma, Georgia's playing Alabama. I mean, it's just it's going to be a bloodbath.
Why would you cut this out?
It's
It's amazing.
yeah. So we need to be lifting up the University of Alabama in our prayers.
May the tide be with you.
May the tide be with
And
you.
also with you.
All our student athletes.
Sorry.
Well, Melissa, it was great having you on. Obviously,
Fantastic.
you're so fun to have on. We can't wait to have you again. Guys, listen, as you have heard today, we're all stressed out as parents, but let's do something. Let's take a step towards getting healthy together, not only for us, but for our kids' sake.
Absolutely.
And the best thing you can do if you mess up is just try to put it behind you, stay engaged with your kids, and we'll see you next time here on Unrattled.
See you later.
Bye guys.